When last we left our hero, we had just created him with a quick build option that took about 2 minutes, which would have been just a few seconds were it not for my terrible connection. And now we are going to return to Hindenburg, oh the humanity, and continue to wait for my connection. So here we are. This is the page that will show up when you get to your character, as I just did from the home page. You get all this stuff. Now, I'm going to explain this stuff in the next video, because this video is about customizing your character. Don't worry about any of this. It's fine. It's going to be fine. There's a lot of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps involved when you're starting out in this game. It's fine that it doesn't all make sense. I've been playing for a while now and I still don't know everything. So, how are we going to customize this guy? Well, we're going to go to the character builder. By the way, all this stuff that I'm about to show you, you can do on your phone as well. It's just a lot easier on the PC. Okay, when we go to a character builder, from the character sheet, we get taken to the class page because that's where the first unselected thing is. But we're going to go to the beginning, to home. So this is, if we had selected in the previous video the standard way to build the character, then this is what would have shown up at first. So I'm not going to explain what all this stuff is. It's just basically the options that you have for creating your character. We're going to turn all of them off here because we don't need them. I don't plan to use them. We don't want these things either. Advancement type, this is going to be XP, which means whenever you do something you get experience points rather than only leveling up when your dungeon master says you have leveled up. This means you can basically keep track of how close you are to your next level, and also how significant the things you do in the game are in terms of experience points. Hit point type fixed. Don't worry about what this means for now. Prerequisites, yes. Level skilled spells, yes. Again, this doesn't have to make sense to you, just copy what I'm doing. We're going to use encumbrance. We will not ignore coin weight to avoid a Sierra Madre glitch in the game. If you don't know what that is, play Fallout New Vegas. It's a fantastic game. Modifiers on top and public. Okay, so your homepage should look like this, and we're going to choose a face for our little man. It's going to be a man because men are more basic than women. And what's he gonna look like? This looks pretty cool, but not very human. Let's go instead with that's clearly a wizard. Okay, bunch of other options. You can upload your own thing, by the way. Okay, that looks like more like a dwarf. This is a cultist. And okay, let's go with this guy. Oh yes, I am finally the kind of person that I want to be, which is a kind of a stupid joke. Okay, we are of the human race. This means we get +1 to all ability scores and 1 extra language. The language that's selected by random here is Kraul. I don't know what that is. So I'm gonna just change that to Goblin, because that's bound to come in handy. So Goblin ability score increased by 1. This means you have 6. Okay, you've got 6 ability scores in this game, and you will have seen this system in other video games like Fallout or Skyrim, any of the Elder Scrolls games. In pretty much any RPG you have some version of this. And the 6 ability scores in this game are Strength, Constitution, Dexterity, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. If you're a human, you get +1 to all of those. And more on that later. We're not going to change the race, but if we were to change our race, these are all the options that I currently have that I've unlocked by paying for these things, which you by no means need to do. The races that you get at first, just by default, are Aarakocra, Aasimar, although not all of these, you only get the variant Aasimar by default. Dragonborn Dwarf, but not the Dwargar or Grey Dwarves. You get Elf, but not the Eladrin Elf. You don't get this, you don't get this. You do get Gnome, but I think only the Forest or Rock. You don't get the Deep Gnome, if I'm not mistaken. And you cannot... for the gnomes, you don't get the wild magic gnomes. You only get the... I'm not so sure about that. Anyway, if you're new to the game, that won't even make sense to you, so never mind. You do get the Goliath, you get the half-elf, you get the half-orc, you get the half-ling, but not the ghost-wise half-ling, only Lightfoot and Stout. You don't get any of these. You get the 2 types of humans. Kenku is a really cool race that I want to play one day. One day, when I'm no longer Dungeon Master. You don't get Orc, you don't get Tabaxi. You do get one of the types of Tieflings, which is just your base Tiefling. And you get none of these. So, I am going... In fact, I could have saved all this time by just doing that. But anyway, all sources. So I'm not going to change... Oh, you know what? I'm going to change race, but not that much. I'm going to switch from this normal human that gets +1 to all ability scores to the variant human. Change race. And this is a little bit of a more advanced race because it gives you a few more options. So the variant human... This is supposed to change, actually. The variant human gets a language like the other guy, so we're going to go with Goblin again. Ability score increase. This is one of the differences, so this is why this should have changed. Let's say we're going to get an intelligence boost by 1 and a wisdom boost. No, fucking wisdom. Okay, skills. You get an extra proficiency, which the other human didn't get. We have, because we did the quick build, we've got the soldier background, which will come in here at stage 4, but just explaining that to you now. So what other skill do we want to be proficient in? Again, you don't need to worry about how this is going to work in technical terms. Just think of what kind of character you want to play. What do you want to be good at? So let's say I want to be good at insight. I want to be an insightful human. Okay, now you might think, and you'd be right, that these differences so far have not added up to be equivalent to +1 to all ability scores. Because we only got 2 bonuses instead of the 6 that we had before, and 1 skill, which isn't worth that much. But we do get a feat, and feats are really a very nice, in D&D terms, flavorful thing you can do with your character. So for example, if you are a dungeon delver, you get these bonuses. You have advantage on perception and intelligence checks made to detect presence of secret doors. You have advantage on saving throws made to avoid or resist traps, which means you're better at resisting traps than people who don't have this feat. You have resistance to the damage dealt by traps, and traveling at a fast pace doesn't impose the normal -5 penalty on your passive wisdom perception score. This is the kind of thing that gets ignored by dungeon masters anyway, so we're not going to go with that. We're going to go with Eldritch Adept. Eldritch is like dark magic-y kind of stuff. Studying occult lore, you have unlocked eldritch power within yourself. You learn one eldritch invocation of your choice from the warlock class, and this obviously would go better with the warlock, unless you just want to be a guy who has a sword and like one magical ability, which could be fun. Whenever you gain a level, you can replace the invocation with another one from the warlock class, and these are the kinds of things that you can do. So let's see. Beguiling influence, what does that mean? You gain proficiency in the deception and persuasion skills. That's a bit shit. So we're not gonna use this guy though, mainly because I may have to explain some things later that I cannot explain. So we're gonna go with the normal human. Again, language, we get to choose it. Let's go again with Goblin. Ability score increase, this is just all automatic. Next, class. Our class that we chose is Fighter. This means our hit points are 1d10 per fighter level. At level 1, you always get your maximum number of hit points, so that's 10, which is the highest you can roll with 1d10. 1d10 means you roll one 10-sided die. 2d10 means you roll two 10-sided dice. 1d12 means you roll one 12-sided die, and so on. And also, as you may have noticed, one die, two dice. Hit points at higher levels, 1d10 or 6 plus constitution modifier. So this is, if you recall from the home page, hit point type. When leveling up, hit points increase hit points by the fixed value for your chosen. I hope I'm recording this. Yes, I am. For your chosen class, fixed or manual. This is the difference between fixed and manual. So let's go back to class. No, let's go back to fucking. Oh yeah, that's right. Hit points. So 1d10 per fighter level. Hit points at first level, 10 plus your constitution modifier. Our constitution modifier is +2, which is why we get 10 plus 2 is 12 maximum hit points. And hit points at higher levels, 1d10 or 6. What does this mean? So if we chose manual from the home page, that means for each time that you level up, which is going to happen 20 times in the game, you're going to roll a 10-sided die, and whatever you roll, that's the number you're going to use. If it's a 1, you use the 1. If it's a 10, you use the 10. So that's kind of the gangster way, as I call it, of leveling up. Or so that's the manual way. The fixed way is you just do 6. And if you work it out mathematically, fixed is actually slightly better. On average, if you do the roly way, the gangster way, the average you're going to roll is 5.5, which obviously you can't, but that it's a fucking average, so that's why there's a fraction in it. So 6 is better than the average that you would get with the fixed point. So if you want to play it safe, go with fixed. I'm going to use... if I was playing, that's what I would use, just because it's one less thing to worry about. It's one less thing to be hitting yourself. But hey, you know, if you want to roll the dice, fucking roll the dice. Plus your constitution modifier. So regardless of whether you're going to use the standard 6 or a roll, you're always going to add 2 to your roll. So if you, at level 2, if you use the fixed points, that means you're going to add 8. So 6 plus 2 added to the 12, your maximum hit points are going to be increased to 20. And just by the way, if you increase your constitution modifier at any point in the game, which will happen, you'll get a chance to do that at levels, I think 5 and 8 and 12 or something like that. You get to increase your hit points for each level. So if you increase your constitution modifier by 1 at level 12, and that results in your hit points increasing, which it definitely will, then you add 12 hit points to your character, which is pretty nice. If that didn't make sense to you, don't worry about it. Proficiencies. So these are things that were chosen at random at the onset when we did the quick build. Perception and survival, yeah, those are pretty good. We can stick with those. And then these things with the soldier in parentheses, this is just what you get as a result of being a soldier, which we'll get to in the description section of this thing. Fighting style, this was not automatically chosen with the quick build. Let's go with defense. The defensive fighting style gives you +1 bonus to AC. Okay, that's pretty good. So +1 bonus to AC. AC is armor class, and armor class means how difficult are you to hit. Your enemies are going to roll a 20-sided die when they attack you, and that 20-sided die will determine if they're going to hit you or not. Your armor class is going to be a number, which by default for a fighter is 12 when he's just naked, not wearing any armor, not carrying a shield, which means that's the number they have to beat in order to successfully hit you, and then we'll figure out how much damage they're going to do. So there's 2 rolls that need to be made with almost every attack. And a +1 bonus to AC, because we're using a 20-sided die, means you are 5% more likely to resist a blow, which there's a sexual joke to be made there, but I'm not going to make it. You fucking do your own dirty jokes, you sick. Anyway, second wind, this is another thing you get when you're just automatically when you're a fighter. You don't have a choice in the matter. You have a limited well of stamina that you can draw on to protect yourself from harm. On your turn, this is a really good ability, by the way, you can use a bonus action to regain hit points equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level. So this means if you are down to 0 hit points, you can use this ability to get back up on your feet. You roll a 10-sided die, and if you roll a 1, that's a 1. If you roll a 10, it's a 10, etc. Plus your fighter level, which in this case, at the moment, we're at level 1. So the worst you can do is get 2 hit points back. But you're alive. You can hit things. That can be very useful. Once you use this feature, you must finish a short rest before you can use it again, short or long rest. The fact that you can regain this ability on a short rest is really good, because there's almost no limit, there's no practical limit to the number of short rests you can get per day. Depending on your DM though, he or she may not let you have that many short rests per day, just to keep the tension going. So we're not going to go to higher levels. These are things you can look at yourself. There are other classes which I'm not going to get into, but because as you can see, there's a lot more stuff involved with class as opposed to race, which tends to be pretty simple. Abilities. So this, once again, is the pre-chosen things when we did a quick build. These are just the standard ability scores that would work best for a fighter. These are the 6. Go ahead and look at them while I take a sip of water. Okay, now there's a bunch of numbers here. What do all these mean? Let's start with strength. The base score, I don't know why they did it this way, it's kind of chaotic. The base score is 15, and this is our highest score. Okay, so the total score is 16. How do we get to that 16? We get to that by going 15 plus 1 because of our racial bonus. 15 plus 1 is 16. That's how we get to that. The modifier is derived from this score. It works with a pretty simple formula. It's just the total score minus 10 divided by 2. So that's 6 divided by 2, which is plus 3. And if it comes out to be a number with a fraction, you always round down. That's how the modifier is calculated. This is pretty chaotic. We don't have any ability improvements on these things, so ignore that. Miscellaneous bonuses, we don't have those either. Ignore that. And you'll see we have a racial bonus for everything plus 1. This is the plus 1 to all ability scores as a result of being human. So that's a pretty good deal if you ask me. We could fudge these numbers a little bit. So you'll notice our dexterity has a score of 14 and our constitution has a total score of 15. But their modifiers are the same. Why? Because 14 minus 10 divided by 2 is 2. 15 minus 10 divided by 2 is 2.5. Rounded down is plus 2. So if we change our constitution to 13, okay, we can't really do much fudging because regardless of what we choose, we're always going to have 15 and 13 somewhere, so it's not going to make sense. Never mind, I might cut that out, or I'll probably leave it in for that word. Our character's name is Hindenburg. This is what he looks like. Pretty badass if you ask me. And what is his background? He's a soldier. There are many other backgrounds you can choose from. Again, if you are new to the game, you won't have all these options. I'm not going to go into all of them. This is like a short little blurb of what your character is, of what this character with background means, tool proficiencies, 3 dragon anti-set. These are just games that can be played in the game, like little mini games, kind of like Gwent in The Witcher, or the other dice game in The Witcher 2, and whatever. There was some mini game in The Witcher 1 as well that had a... Anyway, it doesn't matter. So military rank, this is a military rank. Everything is explained. We're not going to go through all of these things. You get personality traits, which really are where you get to be creative, where you get to figure out what kind of character you want to play. And again, this is just, it's all up to you. There's some examples here. You don't have to choose one of these. You can make up your own, or choose one of them, or choose more than one of them. You do have to choose something though. It's not a requirement by the game rules, but I'm going to require it if you're going to be in my game. And if you've got this far in the video, you probably are. So, character details, alignment. This used to be a big deal in older versions of D&D. Right now it's kind of just a suggestion, like just for you to have an idea of what kind of character you're playing. Especially if this is your first time playing, avoid going evil. It's it's gonna make the game less fun for you and probably for everybody else. Lifestyle, this doesn't really play into the game that much. You can choose whatever. Physical characteristics, you can just put stuff in here or not, doesn't matter. If you choose stuff on top here, it'll show up at the bottom. I don't know why they did it this way. It doesn't really make sense, but it's fine. Organizations, allies, etc. If you're new to the game, you won't know what these are. And if you're not new to the game, then I don't need to explain it to you. So, never mind. Equipment. Now, again, because we went with quick build, we already got some equipment assigned to us but we are not yet wearing it or wielding it. So we're gonna use the chainmail, we're gonna wear it, and we'll see now that's gonna affect our armor class. We have a longsword. This is where all the properties are listed. And we have a shield. So we've got a longsword and a shield, and we're wearing chainmail. Very nice. Other possessions, no other possessions. Add items, no other items, I think, if I'm not wrong. My connection is not the best. Starting equipment, yeah, let's go with gold because we already had some equipment. 5d4, yeah, why not? 5d4, 5 times, what the hell? Okay, let's go 10 by 10 is 100. Nah, that's too much. Let's go 5 by 10 is 50. Okay, cool. And my connection is once again letting me and you down. Active items, chainmail, longsword, shield. Next, that's it. That is how you customize your character. So we're going to go back to the character sheet that we started this video with, and we will see that it has not really changed. Pretty much the same. Now the first thing I'm going to do, because I'm a pedant, or pedant, whatever, is go Underdark mode. It's a new feature. It makes the thing black. Black is always better. Just, you heard it here first. And as promised, we're gonna check out what happens when we take off this chainmail. Well, first of all, we're naked, and more importantly, our armor class has changed. Now, you'll notice that the armor class here that is listed for the chainmail is 16, right? And just to make things simpler, I'm going to take off this shield thing as well. So our base armor class for the fighter that we have here is 12. When we put on the chainmail, you would expect that the armor class changes to 16. But because we chose the defensive, was it a proficiency or was it a fighting style, the defensive fighting style, which outlined that when we wear armor we get an extra point of armor class. That's why the armor class has not changed to 16 but to 17. And if we use a shield, then that's another +2 to the armor class. So our armor class is 19, which means it's very difficult to hit this guy. And we've got a longsword. So I'm just going to explain that and we'll finish this video. We have a longsword, which means a longsword is a weapon that can be carried with either 2 hands or 1 hand. If you use 2 hands, this I had to kind of figure out myself. If you use 1 hand, then you're going to roll an 8-sided die. That's what 1d8 means, and add 3 to that. Why do you add 3? Because your strength modifier is 3, which is derived from the 16, which we went over a couple of minutes ago. If you hold it with 2 hands, you roll a 1d10, which means your range of results is between 1 and 10 rather than 1 and 8, so that's obviously better. And then you add 3 again because of your strength modifier. Now, if you have a shield, as we do, if we're wielding the shield, then you can only use, there's nothing preventing you from clicking here, but your dungeon master is not going to let you. I am not going to let you do that because it doesn't make sense. You don't have 3 arms. If you're wearing a shield, you can only do the one-handed damage, but that's fine. If you think about it, I'm not going to go into the math now, it's better to wear a shield and only use the one-handed damage than it is to not wear a shield and do two-handed damage, because you get a bigger defense from the shield than you do on the attack with the extra hand. And that's where we're going to end this video. In the next one, we will go over what all the rest of this stuff means.